Hello YouTubers, TV here once again at the lane 2 of the North Wolf Creek shooting lanes, and today I'm here to test out my new, hopefully soon to be EDC, a Sig P365. You bet it, I drank the Kool-Aid and bought the gun. Alright, first shots. First mag, I'm assuming that's just a little quirk when it breaks in. Okay, now that I've ran a few magazines of just ball round through it successfully, I'm going to try, skip right to trying my preferred carry round, which is a Underwood Extreme Defender. It's a 90 grain projectile. Look like that. Little caveat, I used to carry the plus P version of this. It's not the plus P version. It's older rounds that I've had that I've been meaning to get, you know, just to the range and shoot off anyways. Reuse the brass. So might be a slight difference, but in this gun probably not a lot, but really right now we're just going to see if they cycle. You got a kick to them, definitely. Didn't seem to have a major difference in point of impact versus the ball round, so that's a good sign. Right on. And they cycled without a flaw. Loving that. Alright, so far it's eaten everything I fed it. We're going to try, you know, some just basic American Gunner 124 grain XTP defensive rounds. This would be pretty standard. This is a plus P. It's a pretty standard round. People might be carrying this. Definitely the plus P is the hottest I've tried through this so far, but even with the plus P, it's a really controllable gun. I know a lot of reviews have stated how controllable it is versus its size, but yeah, and you know, the actual 90 grain Extreme Defenders that I tried really had no report much at all, so I think the plus P version with a lighter grain might actually be about the same as a 380. So far very impressed with this gun. Okay, so we're going to try out something that's actually designed for micro guns. This is the HST, which is of course probably the single most popular defensive rounds, especially in guns of this size. Federal, of course. This is not a plus P, but it's 150 grains, so this will be the heaviest I will try in this. On a side note, when I first got the gun a couple days ago, as per advice from a video I'd watched, he said load up the magazines and just leave them there for a day or so. That'll help break in the springs, make it a little less difficult to load, and indeed I'm finding very easy to load today. But one thing I noticed right off the bat, because I loaded a magazine, one of the 10 rounds with this, I loaded one of the 12 round I have with those 90 grain Extreme Defenders, and even though the 12 round had more rounds, it was notably lighter than the 10 round magazine with these 150 grains, and certainly in the gun you could also notice a difference. I tried wearing it in my waistband holster for a couple hours with both those magazines, and just like anything else, you eventually just don't notice it. So I don't think it's a big deal. I just thought it was kind of interesting, a little particular unique part about this gun having higher capacity for its size. A heavier grain bullet will weigh just a bit more in the gun, and you'll notice it. You will notice it, at least as you're holding it and initially preparing the magazine. So it's just an interesting side note. All right. Aside from my one miss, they work just fine. Cycle awesome. A lot less recoil. or proceed recoil than those 124 grain plus P's. So I don't know if they make those in a plus P load, but that'd be interesting to try out. But the heavier weight bullet, I think, a little easier to control. Right. Okay, so now I've set up a paper target. I'm going to shoot 2 targets. Testing point of aim versus point of impact. I'll be testing out first your basic ball rounds that I've been using. Then I'm going to try my preferred carry, which is the Extreme Defender. I'm at 10 yards. I hope at this range I'm not going to see a lot of variant. I wouldn't expect as much. Some is okay because, you know, most defensive shooting is between 3 to 7 yards, so being out at 10 yards is about as far as I would expect to have to shoot before turning and running. Only kidding. Or maybe. So we're going to test for point of impact versus point of aim. Okay, top target will be the ball rounds, bottom target will be the Extreme Defenders. Alright, let's try the Extreme Defenders. I can already tell from here the grouping on those Extreme Defenders is a whole lot better. But I would contribute that to just the quality of the bullet, because the you know, ball rounds, your basic Walmart Special Federal brass cased Champion series. Wasn't expecting a lot of accuracy out of those. Anyways, let's take a closer look. All right, so as you can see, the ball rounds were pulling a little to the left. The spread, you got about a 2.5, almost 3-inch spread at the widest point. Here again, I've not found that Federal Champion brass to be particularly accurate. Really bad with the 45 ACP, so I'm not surprised that the 9mm is not doing all that well. Down here, though, is the 5 shots of the Extreme Defender, and aside from me probably pulling a little left, they were all, gosh darn, dead center. And at that range, you know, which is 10 yards, I can live with that. If I could do that good when it counts, whew. So yeah, not going to have any problem with my carry round. Alrighty, so I was actually able to get out to the range once more after I had filmed this one. On that range day that I filmed, I shot 511 rounds. That was on the Sunday before the 4th of July. A buddy and I made it back out to the range on the 4th of July, and I only ended up being able to shoot about 150 rounds more through that, but the Sig ran perfectly the entire 600 and some odd rounds. I discovered that I was, you know, riding the slide lock enough that I was getting some intermittent failure to lock opens, but that's entirely me, has nothing to do with the weapon. So yeah, it ran perfectly. So in conclusion, go over some pros and cons, but I was going to go over this in cons, but might as well just address it as its own thing, because it is kind of its own thing, and that would be metal injection molding and reliability. There's been a lot back and forth, a lot of videos, and obviously the first batches, or at least batch of these SIGs out of the factory, had issues with many of these parts, actually the striker tips breaking, and then of course dead triggers. And aside from the slide and the barrel, pretty much anything on this, you know, gun that's metal, that's not a spring or a pin, is, you know, MIM. So and that's pretty much kind of the wave of the future. I certainly know that is why this particular gun comes in at the price range it does. Just to mill that striker alone would add probably at least another $100 on it, because there is a milled aftermarket striker you can get. That's about $100, I'm guessing, give or take about that. I will leave a link in the description on a video that I had seen that sort of kind of changed my mind about this gun. When it first came out, I was like, oh, excited to get it. Then I saw, you know, Tim with the Military Arms channel, you know, in his experience, and I kind of gotten burnt once before on a gun that was just released, buying one, even though it really was just a new caliber of a gun that had done very well. Yeah, I'm assuming that was just a lemon. You know, you get them from time to time, but the company really didn't do well standing behind it. That's a whole other story, but once bitten, twice shy, so I kind of held off. And it does look like Sig has addressed some of those issues. But like I said, the video I will leave a link to below. Take it for what it is. It's a long video, so I'll warn you up in advance. But the guy goes into a lot of detail about kind of the state of art in MIM processing. And if you think about Moore's law, you know, pretty much this technology of this nature doubles in its capacity improvements at least 1.8 years, every 1.8 years, excuse me. And so in this respect, I would imagine that this process has benefited quite a lot here in the almost second decade of the 21st century. So we have to decide for ourselves how much trust we're going to put in that process. Like I said, you know, if you're interested, watch that video. He explains how it might even be a better, more reliable product being minned if the process is done right than it would be trying to mill something of that size. But yeah, I personally feel confident, not just because I put 600 plus rounds through it. I believe that Sig, like other companies, won't, you know, continue putting forth a product that they know is going to be flawed in design and will eventually break down. And there are videos out there that people have, you know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 range. There's actually one from a range not far from the factory, actually in New Hampshire, that has, you know, a rental gun that's been at the range since it was new. It has over 11,000 rounds on it and no issues. So I just want to address that as a con. Yes, it's a con. I'm not too worried about it. So really, for me, the only real cons, other than the price, which it is still kind of expensive, twice as much as pretty much most of the competition in this price range, but about the same kind of price range as you're going to be looking at for the, you know, like G43. So it's not outrageous. So the really only con I had was with the grip, which is awesome. I mean, the very aggressive stippling on this, and a bit too aggressive. When I carry this with just a single garment over my in-band waist carry, it's yeah, very abrasive. But I've always put Talon grips on all my weapons, so I certainly didn't hesitate to do one on this, you know, adding some extra as I always do. And I haven't been able to get back to the range since I've done that, but I'm sure it will be totally worth it. Feels better now, and when I carry it, it doesn't aggravate as much. And of course, they make the Talon grips makes the wraparounds for the 12 round. I didn't see anything for the 50 round yet, but I don't know if you're really, at that point in time, you're not really carrying that on your waist, probably. So pros, for me, it is a very easy to shoot gun. It's, you know, round capacity you just can't argue with. It fits well. I was surprised on how well, you know, especially now that I've got the Talon grip on and it's got a more familiar kind of texture to the gripping. I can definitely see, you know, forming a memory. I just have to be careful where I place my, actually my strong hand thumb. Usually I have to worry about where I put my support hand thumb, but this one, it's within range, the slide lock within the range of this thumb, so I have to be careful on that. So that's really, I guess, another con in the sense that I'm going to have to do kind of learn a little bit of a new carrier technique. But since I plan on putting plenty of rounds through this, going through drills and all that, I'm not too worried about that. It's very comfortable to wear, I found, for the about a week or so that I've been wearing this. So yeah, really pros and cons. The only con that I have was that stippling on the grip was agitating my side, my delicate skin. And the pros are just almost too numerous to mount. This is replacing my Shield 9mm, which I had been carrying for the last few years, and have nothing against that gun. I do have something against maybe the company a bit, but not anything against that weapon. I was 100% confident that would go bang. But this shoots so much better, and it actually is easier to control recoil on this one than it is on the Shield, which is a slightly heavier weapon, oddly enough. And I had mentioned in the video earlier the difference between the bullet weight and a gun this small, and it kind of makes, I know, a noticeable difference in the hand. I'm not sure how much that might affect, its recoil management, but it's something to consider. But otherwise, I am just happy as a clam that it cycles my Underwood defense ammo that I would be carrying. But then again, I've never had a gun, a quality gun. Well, actually, I don't even think I've had any gun that ran any of the high defense ballistics, even the APX stuff, which is a copper epoxy kind of thing. This is solid copper, CNC. But I've never had a problem with any of the monolithic style projectiles going out of any of the weapons I've ever shot from. But I'm relieved that this one is not only working well, certainly no issues, but actually it is spot on, point of aim, point of impact, as you probably saw from the video example that I gave. So I would say, yeah, don't believe the hype. I think a lot of that bad mojo about the MIM parts and the reliability of this, which, by the way, if you're that concerned about the striker pin, tips, you can get that machined stainless steel striker pin, even though this is still stainless steel MIM, which is then heat treated and such. Personally, my plan on this is to keep this stock. I thought about the possibility of putting a flat trigger in, and if I did, I know the one that's machined out there, I'm trying to remember the name, but I can't, is really popular right now, to the point where it's back ordered. But I know Glock offers, I mean not Glock, but Sig offers their own flat trigger that you can put in here after the fact. If I did, I might, if I put a flat trigger in at all, I might do that. At this point, it shoots just fine. I have no problems with the trigger. I like it the way it is. I considered, upgrading that, striker pin, but from what I kind of gleaned from that video, referenced in the description, that it may not be that much more of an advantage. It might actually be a bit of a disadvantage depending on how well that was machined. And it's not made by a major company, so I'm going to hold off and see on that one. But my biggest concern is that this is going to be my everyday carry, which means it is going to be the gun most likely used in self-defense, and certainly outside the home. Inside the home you have a little more latitude when it comes to the possibility of being prosecuted, but outside the home, and where I live in this state, hasn't quite gotten off the crazy train yet, but it's darn close. It's working very hard at killing gun culture in the state, and I have no confidence that if I should be out there somewhere and get into, God forbid, a self-defense shooting, and I even just wound somebody, let alone have to take a life, which is hopefully not ever going to be a thing I have to deal with. I have no trust that a young and upcoming prosecutor for the DA's department, especially if this happens in Portland, Oregon, may not want to make an example, and in that case try to prove that I'm somehow negligent to begin with. And certainly that's one of the arguments that has been used in courts before, is end users modifying a pistol in any respect could render it unsafe in the eyes of ignorance, and that certainly might explain some of the mindsets of the jury, that you're going to end up having to make an argument before that you weren't being irresponsible by modifying your own weapon, and thus you must have an irresponsible nature, and as a result, with irresponsible in defending your life as you did. So, despite what the evidence may prove otherwise. So, anyways, just removing one more potential pitfall. Especially considering I don't consider anything about this necessary to be upgraded or changed, other than, like I said, I put a grip tape on here because that works better for me, and that's the only modification I'm going to do. Hopefully, though, maybe somebody like Olight or Enforcer, something like that, will make a actual flashlight that will work on this rail. I know they do have one company out right now that makes a replacement frame that you can drop your chassis into. That's aluminum and has a legit piccaninny grill, I believe. So open up options there. Here again, I know there's multiple thoughts on lights on weapon mount lights. I do like it for the in-home. Obviously, think that's mandatory. Out and about, yeah, stay away from dark areas. So I know, yeah, you could be in a room and the lights go out and have danger, but yeah, they can't see you if you can't see them unless you're talking about some, you know, night vision invasion type of thing. So anyways, I digress. That's more a philosophy of use than the actual review of this weapon, which is basically, I think, the perfect concealed carry until something better comes out. I think it's most certainly reliable enough to carry. I shoot it well. I shot it better for the first time than I did after years, than I did the Shield 9mm after years of shooting it. So that says a lot about how shootable, accurate, and easy to carry this Sig P365 is. I am very glad I bought it. Alright, thanks YouTubers. See you later. Hey, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah.